Hello and welcome to this class. Dear learners, this is part 2 of the topic infrastructure, and this chapter is part of Indian Economic Development book. In the first part, we covered what is infrastructure. We also covered the classification of infrastructure into two parts, the economic infrastructure and the social infrastructure. Then we had a brief look on the status of infrastructure in India and how India fares in comparison to its neighbors. Now, we shall have this part 2, and in this part we shall be discussing about energy sector in India and the health sector. The basic infrastructure that is available in these two sectors, the initiatives and efforts of the government, and the problems of these two sectors in the country. So let us start with energy. As you can see, energy, it has different forms. It can be solar, it can be hydropower, it can be biomass, it can be in the form of wind, or it can be geothermal. There are many sources of energy and we shall be discussing about all of them. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. Energy is essential for industries. In fact, it is essential for agriculture too. And related areas like production and transportation of fertilizers, pesticides and farm equipment. It is required in houses for cooking, household lighting and heating. We can't think of producing a commodity or service without using energy, because energy is needed for all activities from the morning to the evening. Whatever we do, we need energy, and we need energy and we use energy in different forms. Sources of energy can be categorized into two parts. Broadly, we can think of commercial sources or the non-commercial sources. Sources of energy like coal, petroleum, electricity. If you see, these sources are traded in the market. They are bought, they are sold. In market, there are buyers, there are sellers of these sources of energy. And they are also exhaustible, means their stock can end sometime in future. Their stock is limited. And such sources of energy are called commercial sources. While fuel wood, agricultural waste, dried dung, they are available usually in nature, they are usually available in forest, they are outcome of agricultural harvest. They are usually not traded in the market. They are basically collected from nature, collected from forest, and usually women do this activity in our rural areas. We consider them usually renewable sources because fuel wood, agricultural waste, they are produced every year after every season. So these are non-commercial sources, but both commercial and non-commercial sources presented here, they are actually conventional sources of energy. So if these are conventional sources of energy, then that means there must be some non-conventional sources of energy too. We shall be discussing about them too. First of all, have a look the composition of energy consumption in India. The commercial sources comprises of 74% of the energy needs of the country, while 26% is comprised by non-commercial sources. Out of the commercial energy sources, if you have a look, then coal and lignite are the major contributions. They make 74% contribution to the commercial energy consumption or commercial energy use in India. While oil and natural gas, they make up 10% and 9% share of the composition of commercial energy. Coal and lignite are not very environment friendly sources, but we are somewhere compelled to use them because coal and lignite are available in abundance in India as compared to natural gas or petroleum oil. Now, have a look at trends in sectoral share of commercial energy consumption from 1953-54 to 2017-18. Looking at the figures, you will get an idea that transport was the largest consumer of energy in 1953-54, but its share has dramatically fell over the years and its share is merely 1% in 2017-18. The sectoral pattern of consumption of commercial energy is provided in the table, and it reveals that the transport sector was the largest consumer of commercial energy, as I have said. However, there has been continuous fall in the share. The share of other sectors has changed as well. Share of household, agriculture and others have been increasing. With a rapid rate of economic growth, there has been a corresponding increase in the use of energy. Now, power, or which is called electricity, we shall be discussing about it. It is the most visible source or form of energy. When we talk about power, we basically are thinking of electricity, and when we talk of energy, then we talk of electricity as a major source. It is a major source in domestic needs, it is a major source in industrial needs as well, and presently the government is encouraging the use of electric cars because it is environment friendly. So, energy, which is often identified with progress in modern civilization, is power, commonly called electricity. It is critical component of infrastructure that determines the economic development of a country. Most developed countries are actually shifting from petroleum based vehicles to electric vehicles because it is environment friendly, and the developing countries are also catching up in this moment. The growth rate of demand for power is generally higher than the GDP growth rate. Studies point out that in order to have 8% of GDP growth per annum, power supply needs to grow at around 12% annually. Now, have a look at this pie chart. Different sources of electricity generated in India 2016. Oh, 82% is contributed by the thermal sources, where coal and lignite are the source of energy. In India, thermal sources accounted for 82% of the power generation capacity, while hydel power accounted for 8.5%, while nuclear power accounted for mere 2.5%. India's energy policy encourages three energy sources: solar, hydel and wind, and as they do not rely on fossil fuel and they are environment friendly, hence they avoid carbon emissions, yet this has not resulted into faster growth of electricity. Why? Because these sources are basically very expensive, and India, like any developing country, has very limited capital. So our resources don't allow much investment on these technology. Although these are environment friendly, these are the technologies for, these are the sources of energy for the future, but we need a lot of capital for them. Atomic energy is an important source of electric power. It has economic advantages. At present, nuclear energy accounts for only 2.5% of the total energy consumption against a global average of 13%. So you can imagine that how far we are still as compared to the global average. So nuclear energy is a source of energy for the future. Certainly the government would be thinking of increasing the or tapping the potential of this source. Now have a look at the challenges in the power sector. There are a lot of restrictions or a lot of limitations of this sector. First is the inadequate electricity generation. Still, we face from the problems of shortage of inputs, like as I said, coal and lignite is still the major source of energy, and thermal sources of energy contribute to 80%, more than 80%, in fact 82% of the total energy production in the country. So these are the problems that power sector faces. Apart from that, inefficiency or poor performance of state electricity boards, which suffer from transmission and distribution losses, power theft. Apart from that, one more issue is that a lot of electricity boards have to provide free or subsidized energy to the agriculture sector. That also affect their efficiency, their finances. Private sector and foreign sector have not made much investment in this power sector. That is another bottleneck of this area. So these are the problems of power sector, and now we move on to the health sector, which is an important part of the social infrastructure in any country. Health sector, as you can see in the image, it is comprised of the hospitals, the nurses, the doctors, the paramedicals, the pharmacists. These all they compose the health sector. Health is not only absence of disease, but also the ability to realize one's potential. Because a healthy person is able to realize himself, herself, to fully capitalize on the potential. It is a yardstick of one's well-being. Health is the holistic process related to the overall growth and development of the nation. Though the 20th century has seen a global transformation in human health unmatched in history, it may be difficult to define the health status of a nation in terms of a single set of measures. Generally, scholars assess people's health by taking into account indicators like infant mortality rate or MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, or life expectancy, which is an indicator in the Human Development Index, and nutritional levels, along with the incidence of communicable and non-communicable diseases. So, health infrastructure includes, as I said, hospitals, doctors, nurses, paramedicals. Apart from that, the physical infrastructure like beds, the hospital equipment, machinery, and well-developed pharmaceutical industry. But all these things have no use if they are not accessible by the poorest of the poor or the ordinary citizen of the country. So, every citizen of the country should have access to these facilities, then only they have any sense of importance. Have a look at the public health infrastructure in India between 1951 to 2017, and if we have a look at the statistics, then we find that there were only 2,694 hospitals in 1951, which has increased to 25,778 hospitals in 2017. So, since independence, there has been a significant expansion in the physical provision of health services. During 51 to 2018, the number of government hospitals, dispensaries together increased from 9,300 to 53,800, and hospital beds, they increased from 1.2 lakh to 7.1 lakhs. Nursing personnel also increased from 18,000 to 30 lakh, and allopathic doctors from 62,000 to 11.5 lakhs. So, there has been a significant increase in the health infrastructure, but despite that, it is very less as compared to the increase in the population of the country, because population has also increased over the past 70 years multiple times in the country. The private sector has very significant or important role in the health facilities in the country, because it runs about 70% hospitals in the country. It controls about 2/5 of the beds. If there are 10 hospital beds in the country, then 4 would belong to the private hospitals, and run about 60% dispensaries in the economy. So, you can imagine what important share private sector has in the health infrastructure of the economy. Sources of healthcare, private sector is an important source of healthcare for 80% of the outpatients and 46% of the inpatients in the country. Apart from that, private sector is also playing leading role in medical education and training. There are a lot of private colleges in India which provide MBBS courses, BDS courses, BMS courses to the students, medical technology and diagnostics, manufacturing, sale of pharmaceuticals, hospital construction, provision of medical services. Everywhere private sector is playing a crucial role, and in fact, there are many private hospitals in the country which have been established in last few decades, which are state of the art, which are an example in themselves, and they are the reason for medical tourism in the country. Problems in health sector in India can be summarized that low government expenditure, that only 3.7% of the GDP is spent on health infrastructure in the country, and India, which is such a large country and there is massive poverty still in the country, this is very less figure for such a country. Less than 20% population utilizes public health facilities. Apart from that, 38% PSCs have required number of doctors. That means the remaining 62% doesn't have the required number of doctors, and only 30% have sufficient stock of medicines. So, there is shortage of doctors and medicines throughout the country. Now, here the Indian system of medicine can play a very crucial or important role in health sector of the country because they are affordable, they are cheap, and they are traditionally used in the country. They don't have side effects too. So here Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, Naturopathy, Homeopathy, these are the 6 part of Indian system of medicine, and they are collectively called Ayush, and government has created a separate ministry for this, Ayush ministry, Ayush Mantralaya we call it. At present there are 4095 Ayush hospitals and 27,951 dispensaries in the country, and as many as 8 lakh registered practitioners in the country, and there is vast scope for the expansion of Ayush system of medicine. As I have said that this is affordable, as well as this is this lack the side effects of allopathic medicine which usually we face. So it has a huge scope in India. Despite this all infrastructure, we can see, if we look at the data and statistics of rural and urban India separately, we will find that there is insufficient medical infrastructure in rural areas. Though 70% of the population live in rural areas, but there is no proportional medical facility available in the rural area. It should have 70% of the hospitals, it should have 70% of the doctors, but less than 1/5 of the hospitals are located there. So you can imagine that how far the disparity between rural and urban areas in respect to the availability of health infrastructure is. Only 50% of the total pharmacies are in rural areas, only 0.36 hospitals per 1 lakh in rural areas, whereas the number is 3.6 in urban areas. So there is a big disparity in rural and urban area in India. Facilities like X-ray, these are very basic facilities, X-ray, blood tests, they are not available in the public health centers. Rural people do not have access to special health facilities like pediatrics, gynecology, anesthesia and obstetrics. In the absence of all these medical facilities, people in rural areas have to either migrate or travel long distance to come to urban areas to avail such facilities. They spend a lot of money, they have to miss their work, and they suffer a lot in traveling. So government certainly need to do a lot in developing health infrastructure in rural areas. According to a study, the poorest 20% of Indians spend about 12% of their income on healthcare, while the rich spend only 2%. So that means the burden of expenditure on health is borne more by the poor people. So government need to have more hospitals in the areas where there is rampant poverty. Since government run hospitals do not provide sufficient facilities, when poor falls sick, they have to go to private hospitals and they fall into the unending debt trap because they take a loan from some non-institutional sources, from some Mahajan or some other sources to finance their poor health, to finance their treatment. They fall in the trap of the debt, and they have to, many times they have to sacrifice their fields, their farms, their livestock. So that is a very poor situation sometimes in the rural areas. So I hope you would have understood about the basics of health infrastructure in the country and the power sector, the energy sector, the basic statistics about them, the problems these two sectors face in the country, and the need of initiatives by the government to uplift these sectors, to have better investment in these sectors, so that we can have better economic development in the coming years. Apart from that, we can see that infrastructure can play a crucial role in eradication of poverty, in providing of basic amenities to the people. So that is all this discussion. Thank you so much for watching this. Bye bye.